Hey YouTube, thought I'd give myself another challenge today. I'm probably the last person in the world need to be doing this, but because I got a CZ I took apart and I still ain't got it back together, but I will. But here's my Ruger Mark II target model. Pretty sure it's 7 3/4 inch barrel, target sights. It is unloaded, which is good because we're going to take it apart. But anyway, I took this thing apart about 20 years ago. And I don't know how far I took it apart, I don't remember, but I know I lost something in the safety mechanism. I lost a detent, spring, something. The gun would shoot, but the safety was just flopping around. I had to send it to Ruger to get repaired. Anyway, but back then there wasn't YouTube, so I couldn't watch YouTube videos and figure out what I was doing wrong or how to do it right. So I've been watching some YouTube videos and seen old Bobby Brown took one apart. His had was a friend of his had the 45. It was a 2245, but evidently still a Mark II. But anyway, so I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and I figured I'd rip this one apart because I know it needs cleaning. Usually for me to clean it after I took it apart and had Ruger put it back together, I would just hose it down and wipe down the chamber, clean the barrel out, and that was it, you know. So this will be the first time it's been took apart in 20 years, so I'm sure it is filthy. So anyway, here we go. Seen many things to use. I just happen to have a little brass tube here. I'm going to flip this little lever out. And I've already took this out one time and I couldn't do it by hand. Let's see if I can, since I've took it out. I still hadn't stripped the whole gun down, I just couldn't get this part out. Yep, it's going to be stuck again. It says it just pulls out, but I can't do it. So what I done, took my little brass rod and a hammer and put it in my lap. Popped it. And I popped it. There we go. It's a little hard to do. I almost need another hand. Anyhow. Pull that part out. Alright. Once you do that, I think, well, maybe not. I was thinking the slide would come out. I've seen it done a couple of different ways. Oh, I see what's wrong. There we go. Hammer strut was in the way. Alright. So there's the bolt. I have not seen this took out in 20 years. It's actually not as dirty as I thought it would be. And you can just push on that a little bit. And take the spring out. It rolls out. And then you can flip it over. Mine's probably gunked up. Oh, that's right, you gotta take the pin out, my bad. Take the firing pin out. I mean, not firing pin. Firing pin, retaining pin. Then the firing pin will come out, and this little spring. If it's gonna focus or not. Anyhow, a little spring with a little metal piece. It's got a lip on it and it's bent, and that lip's got to go down when you go back. Kind of sits in a, I know you're not going to be able to see it. Get this dimmed down a little bit. I don't know. Anyhow, if you can see up there at the top, there's a little, kind of little spot, little hole for that thing to go in. So anyway, there you go. There's its basic field stripped. We can go a step further and take the barrel off. And I don't have a rubber mallet on hand. I looked for it, but I couldn't find it. So I thought I would try to just hit it with the back of an old hammer. Let's just see if this works. It may not work. Worked. Shot across the table. So there you go. Look at that grime. Isn't that nasty? Look at that. I don't know if that might be too much light. That thing is awful. Oh goodness. I'm hoping this light ain't just so bright that you can't see all that muck. It's horrible. Look at that. Alright. I was going to do a reassembly video and show me putting it back together, but I think this thing is so horrible. My God, look at there. I don't know if that's showing up or not. I said, see, back when I did it the first time, it wasn't YouTube. Alright, see, that's clean. This thing is terrible. All that gunk. Anyway, well, I guess I will pause this. As much as I hate to edit videos, I'm going to clean this thing up a little bit, and then I'll reassemble it. Hang on. Okay, got it all cleaned up. Let's try to put this thing back together. It might not be spick and span, but compared to what it was, it's very clean now. Alright, we're going to put the firing pin retaining spring in. Like I said, there's a little, not really a hole, but a little detent there, not a detent, a little slot made just for that little curved piece. Then we're going to take our firing pin, install it to the kind of in the rearest position you can to get it to catch that spring. Yeah. And then it'll fall and it'll be pretty much flush. We can put our pin back in, and boom, voila. Firing pin, check it, make sure it's free. Yep, it's working. Alright, we're going to, I've seen it done two different ways. I've seen people put it together with the, yeah, that's right. Make sure I'm doing that right. Put a little more, just a little bit more oil on that. Make it feel a little better. Oh, and be careful if you're cleaning these. I was sticking my finger down through there with a little paper towel rubbing back and forth, and after 20 years that edge is sharp as hell. I cut my damn finger. Anyway, so I've seen it done, like I said, a couple of different ways. One way was to go ahead, well, I better put my damn recoil spring on here. It ain't gonna work at all. So we'll put that little half moon clip looking thing in that slot, and that should just pop in place, and it did. There you go. Alright, so like I said, I've seen it done a couple of different ways. Is that flush? Is that all the way? I think so, yep. And one way was to, the one thing that'll mess you up is that piece right there, that firing pin or hammer, what do they call it, sear or hammer or something or another. Anyway, one way I seen it put together was with the bolt in it, and they said make sure and have the hammer up in that position. I don't know if that makes a difference. Well, I think it's going to fall out anyway. Alright, then we got to tap this in place. One guy's trick was to make sure your holes are lined up. See if that'll go in. Yep, goes in. Alright. I don't know if y'all saw that, but one guy's trick was put this in from the other way, make sure it, because if the barrel's not all the way back, it won't go in. Alright, let's put our bolt back in. And here's the tricky part. Alright. That hammer strut I was talking about, I know this is not coming out. It's laying on, okay, there you can see it, I think, yeah. It's laying on a little pin. Well, if you don't drop your bolt out, let's put the bolt back in. the trick I seen was just to simply hold the gun up at an angle, and that'll let, because that hammer strut's got to go in this little hole here, is that little divot. So I'm gonna get that started, get this pushed up, and man, mine's tight. The hammer strut was in my way. Told you these damn little things was tricky. Alright, that went in there. My hammer strut is loose. I say it's loose. Alright, I finally figured it out. You gotta release the trigger and get that hammer to go all the way forward. Then this will go up in there. Took me a minute to get my hammer struts out of the way. Alright, it snapped into place. And like I said, you want to cock the gun back like that so that hammer strut will fall into place. And see, you got like a little spring tension there, so you know you get it right. If you do it wrong, it'll just flop down flush. Alright. Wow, look at that. 20 years later, I finally got it took apart and put back together right. So, little trick. Now that I've done it, I know what I'm doing. You got to make sure, like I said, I know you're not being able to see this, but you want to pull the hammer and get that, pull the trigger and get that hammer to go all the way forward. You got to kind of like push it forward. Otherwise, this just don't want to go in. You got to also make sure that that hammer strut, see there, see how that just fell into place? No resistance. That strut's not in place. So we want to lean it back. Lean it back so it'll fall into, so it'll swing out, and then you got that little bit of spring tension. If you don't do it right, the slide won't come back, it won't fire, you just stuck. So anyway, if anybody held on for the whole fumbling through that, maybe you learned something. I know I did as well with you. And I finally cleaned my Ruger 1020, my Ruger Target Mark II Target model. I'll get it out here in a minute. There you go. Now I scratched it. Anyway, later YouTube.